Thank you all for coming out on this Saturday. My name is Brian Sweats. I'm with the City of Portsmouth. I'm in the planning department. I'm the project manager for the update city's comprehensive plan that we're calling Build One Portsmouth. I just wanted to welcome you all. Again, remind us who's in the back. We're not taking it with us, so please don't feel bad about taking as much as you want. It's anything that doesn't get eaten, it's just going to get thrown in the trash anyway. If you haven't already done so, later on, if you could please make sure that you sign in the sign-up sheets out front. We want to make sure that we have everyone's contact information so we can let you know over the next year as we write the plan and get ready to adopt it. So you make sure that you guys are aware of that. You can see the draft and make sure that the stuff that we do here today is included and that you're okay with it. There's also an exit questionnaire either in your package or on the table out there. We're not asking for personal information because we are that interested in you specifically. What we're doing is we're tracking the people that we get in contact with so we can make sure that all aspects of the city are being represented. This plan is supposed to be very open and inclusive, and so the information on the exit questionnaire helps us to kind of refine our outreach efforts in case there's people that we're not talking to. If you need it, restrooms are down the hall, go past all of our displays into the main TCC lobby. Take a left and you'll see the doors on your left. And other than that, that's all I have to say, other than, again, welcome and thank you for coming. I'm going to turn this over to Emily Crow, who is running the show for us today.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. My name is Emily Crow. I am with McBride Dale Clarion. We are a planning and zoning consulting firm out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and I have written a lot of comprehensive plans in the state of Virginia, and I'm super excited to be here yet again with you all here in Portsmouth. I've been working here for about a year on this project, and I just really love this community, and I'm so happy to see all of you out here this morning to talk to me about your ideas for the future of this city. So I do want to follow up a little bit on what Brian started to share with you all. As you came in and signed in, we had folders for you all. Did everyone get one of these this morning? Anyone not have one? We can grab one for you. Okay, so in this packet, this is something for you to carry with you throughout the day. You've got an agenda in here, and then you also have two worksheets, actually 3 worksheets. You have the rating your draft goals worksheet, which is the blue form. That's one of the things that we're going to use in this conversation as we meet down here. But you can take that with you up to the breakout groups. At sometime around 10 o'clock, we're going to go upstairs so you can have some smaller group discussions. If you haven't finished filling this out at that point, you can finish that up there. And then you have this white worksheet that has the goals on it. And so you can jot your ideas down for what you think, you might want to be talking about with your group. So I'm going to go through a lot of this material in the presentation this morning, and then you're going to have an opportunity to talk with your neighbors about what your ideas are on these topics. The final worksheet that we would like to have you leave with us before you go today is this yellow sheet, which is the exit questionnaire. This is just so we know who participated, what you thought of the event, and just to make sure that we can stay in contact with you all through the remainder of the process. So if you'll just make sure you carry this material with you throughout the day and then just leave it with us before you go, that would be much appreciated. So what I would like to talk to you all about a little bit this morning, let's see if this is awake. Let me see if I can get this to advance. So, as I mentioned, we've been working for about a year on this process. And this is a pretty straightforward process. But what we have been doing is working with you as the citizens of this community to iteratively build on what the vision for Portsmouth should be. And we did, in February, we did the first round of engagement. I'm sorry, that was actually in November we did the first round of engagement. And we asked you what you loved about this community and what you thought were our strongest assets and what you thought were the biggest challenges for the future. And that helped us identify some values, what people care about in this community. And from there, we moved on to visioning and thinking about what we wanted to do in the future. And so in February, we came back with a lot of information about what's going on in Portsmouth and where we're seeing some challenges. And we looked at maps and we talked to the community, and we really tried to pinpoint and focus on what's really important. What do we need to try to address for a successful future? And then, since February, what we have been doing is working on putting that into active goals that we're going to go through with you today. And so what we have done is established a framework for planning. We know what's important. We know where we think you all want to be in the future. And we also now have an idea of what we might need to achieve to get there. And so that's that framework, and it includes things like your infrastructure. What kind of transportation elements do we need to be looking at? What do we need to be looking at in terms of community character and land use? What are our development opportunities? How do we improve economic development potential in the city? So we're looking at all of those topics that would commonly be reviewed in a comprehensive plan. And today, that's what you have an opportunity to review, is that framework. Where are we headed? Where are we focusing geographically on certain aspects of this? And then what we're asking you to help us with today is to tell us what you think the city should be doing to reach those goals. And so we have some ideas about what maybe we could do. We have the existing plan that has been used for the last 10 years that, we've accomplished a lot in that plan, but now it's time for a new vision and to refresh that and to move forward with some different ideas. And so we're today in that framework phase, which is really just kind of the middle of the process. And so at this point, we haven't started writing what the plan should be yet. We're just visioning and we're saying, here's what we think we should do. And so as we move forward, we're going to take what you all tell us today. We've got these activities are going to be open on the website for the next month. And we really want to find out from the community what you all would like to see happen. And so over the fall months, we're going to be drafting this and putting it together. We're going to be working with Planning Commission to review these ideas that we collect over the next month. And really put something together that we can bring back out to you as the public, probably in early 2018 as the first draft of the plan, to see how you all feel about it and take some recommendations about how we could improve components of it. But we're going to work through this process together and hopefully by spring have a plan in place that you all feel really represents where the city should be going.
Emily, I'd like to acknowledge that we have City Councilwoman Lisa Burke here. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Everybody.
So as I mentioned, we established guiding principles very early in the process. And we've talked through these several times with the public, with Planning Commission, with Council, to really try to refine these and make the statements something that we feel like really represent where we stand as a city and a community. And so we talk about the pride that we feel in this community of living here and of having a place that we love and our neighbors. We talk about the people. One of the things as an outsider that I really appreciated hearing from you all in the first two rounds was how neighborly and community-oriented this city is. And I just really appreciated hearing that, and I think that carried through a lot of the messages that we got. Our places, you have some very unique community assets. You have buildings and landmarks, you have historic districts, and those are the places that people really cherish about Portsmouth, and protecting those for the future as part of the identity of the city is really important. And then finally, the position of the city. So you have a position in this region as the kind of urban core, and so you by nature have a historic focus here, and you also have a real advantage because you're so much closer to all the other places in the region just by the fact that you're in the center. So really building on that and looking at that, and also the fact that you're a city on the water and you have these port facilities and everything else. What are the advantages of that? And so those were the values that established our guiding principles. And so as we move through this process, we want to be thinking about these things and how do they guide our decisions about what we do for the future. So the vision is that statement that is guided by those guiding principles and values, but this is what we would like to be in the future. This is our ultimate aspiration, and we did this to be as active as possible. And so we talk about being thriving. What does that mean for this community to be thriving? And so we went through a lot of versions of these and we tested them, and we came up with, we draw from our rich history to promote healthy individuals, local economies, regional collaboration, and vibrant neighborhoods with strong identities. So to us, that maybe is what it means to thrive. We want to be resilient. We want to prepare for long-term prosperity by thoughtfully creating adaptable structures, systems, and practices to prepare for opportunities and meet challenges. So this can cover a lot of things. We don't want to just be resilient to the environment and the things that happen to us, but we want to be resilient fiscally, and we want to be resilient people. We want to be strong and be able to respond to the changes that happen. We want to be evolving. We want to embrace the future and respond positively to emerging opportunities, to care for the people and places we love by balancing historic preservation with thoughtful reinvestment and redevelopment. As an urban city, you have very little opportunity to grow out of the footprint that you already have. And so looking within is where your opportunities lie. And so to evolve, some things will have to change. Equitable. We want to cultivate a vibrant city where equality is evident as we meet the needs of all of our citizens in ways that are fair, meaningful, and empowering. And I think this one's really important because this is when we talk about being resilient, or we talk about being thriving, or we talk about evolving, we want everyone to participate in that. And I think that's really important. So those are those vision statements that we've all kind of come to agree to at this point. To support these big ideas, a comprehensive plan has to do certain things. And in the state of Virginia, you are required to do specific elements that include things like land use, economic development, housing, transportation, utilities and infrastructure. All of these things have to be addressed in your community's comprehensive plan. But we want to think bigger than just, okay, what do we need to do to go out here and improve, this corner of this street? We want to be thinking about how we move the city forward together. And so what we did is we created these geographic frameworks, and these maps are available in the hallway if you would like to see them in greater detail. But this map really kind of shows how the different areas of Portsmouth are alike and how they are also somewhat different from each other. So we've identified neighborhoods by the kind of era that they were developed so that they have common characteristics. So we might be able to look at a certain package of recommendations or ideas around each of those areas. We've also looked at how the city is connected both internally and to the region. So we've looked at your highway networks. We've looked at your pedestrian and bike systems and how those connect Portsmouth to your surrounding neighbors. And then one of the other things that we looked at on this framework is where are those kind of special places if you are coming into the city or if you're within the city already that kind of represent a gateway into the community. And thinking about, do we have special ideas for how the city might look at those gateways? And so those three components together kind of establish the basic framework. And then we also have overlaid on this something that's really important here in this community, are the areas that are impacted by flooding and the potential tidal changes and things like that, because we think that there's very important needs to look at specific strategies for those areas that may be a little bit different than just saying, well, this land use is appropriate here, or we need a connecting street here. Things like that go a little bit further. And so we expect that we'll be looking at strategies for those areas as well. And then we have what I think really starts to focus our attention even more on the different areas where you all have told us you think there are special opportunities or challenges that we could address with some very strategic thoughts. And this map, we've called them the focus areas. The blue areas are places where we think there's a good opportunity for some economic development potential. And those are areas where there is either a proposal for something or you have a significant concentration of business zoned land. So either industrial or commercially zoned areas that have some potential either through vacant land, underutilized land, or just by the sheer fact that they are in a great location with rail access to really offer some economic development opportunities for the city. Then we have the brown areas, which are what we're kind of classifying as a mixed use development area. And those are a combination of residential homes and some smaller commercial areas. But then we also have maybe what you're all more familiar with, kind of the downtown, midtown, and uptown areas are all identified in those mixed use areas. So these are some of the places where you could expect some transformation to be more of an integrated community with commercial uses and maybe some new residential development as well. And then you have the gold areas, which are the neighborhoods that you all have identified at this point that either have something special about them that you want to try to enhance, or maybe they're having some specific challenges that some strategies would be helpful to get some reinvestment or to change some things in a way that still protects that character and keeps it part of what we love about Portsmouth, but elevates those communities. And so I think we have about 9 or 10 of those. And if you do visit the boards out in the hallway, we have listed those out specifically, and we're asking for some input in the open house format about, are these the right areas? Are we missing some places that could maybe use some special attention? But these focus areas, I think, are really important as we move forward because they kind of shape the idea of what kind of recommendations do we need in these areas to really make a difference. So the next part of this is going to be a little bit more interactive. I'm not going to just stand up here and talk continually. But if you pull out the blue worksheet, and then I think you should have a little pencil in your folders if you don't have something to write with already. And I'm going to go through each of the vision statements and then the series of goals that is associated with it. And then on your worksheet, what we're asking you to do is score each goal based on how much support you feel like you can give that goal statement. And so a 1 would be, I don't really support this. I don't think it's the best thing. And a 5 would be, yes, this is the goal that we need for Portsmouth. And then there's also a space on this worksheet for you to put some comments. If you have thoughts or ideas about how we could make these goals better, if we could say it better, if we need to add some language to this, that's where you can give us those comments. So I'll go through the vision, I'll read through the goals, and then I'll give you a little bit of some kind of quiet time to reflect on that. And as I said, you'll have a little bit of time up in the other work session to do this as well. Any questions before we jump into that? Okay. All right, so thriving. Again, we draw from our rich history to promote healthy individuals, local economies, regional collaboration, and vibrant neighborhoods with strong identities. So I'll point out here, we're talking about healthy people, we're talking about local economies and regional collaboration, and we also want to talk about vibrant neighborhoods. So we're covering a lot of topics under the idea of thriving. So to achieve that vision, we're saying we would like to achieve a position of influence within the Hampton Roads region. We want to learn from our unique history and culture. We want to expand economic opportunity. We'd like to have an educated and engaged population. We want to be a creative and cultural environment that supports the arts and education. And we want to be a healthy city. Yes.
In terms of the connotation of support, does that mean something that we intellectually support, something we emotionally support, or something we're willing to support with actual time and effort?
I think it's all three. I think it's, I mean, this is an individual exercise that we're going to put together. So if you would like to qualify that you think it's something that is worthwhile, but maybe a challenge, I think we all recognize that none of this is going to be exceptionally easy, but these are our aspirations. So certainly if you'd like to qualify, yes.
When you say be a healthy city, are you talking about actual physical health?
So that's part of what these are intended to be, is they're kind of broad. And so physically healthy, we might talk about environmental issues under that, like do we have clean air? Do we have clean water? You may want to talk about access to health care. You might want to talk about physical activity. So these are kind of the big ideas under which, as we go out into the next part of this exercise, we might start populating them with specific programs and strategies. So to be healthy, well, what does that mean and how do we do that? Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Are you open for questions or statements?
Yeah, I can answer questions right now.
One of the things that prompt me to be here is that I'm concerned if Portsmouth had thought about better senior living.
So that's a really good statement. We are thinking about that. Right now, what we're doing is going through some goals and then ideas about how we could improve senior living in the city. That would be something that you could share with us in the next exercise. Okay? Yes.
At this point, something that you had mentioned, there's still some flexibility to sort of refine these goals and today's exercises will vet that out.
Yes, that's what we're looking for. So if on these, if you're feeling like, well, be a healthy city, for example, I like that, I can support that, but I might need some qualifiers on that. That's what we want to hear from you. The other thing is to think about this, these aren't going to stand alone. Eventually, these goals will be supported by the strategies that we talk about today. So we haven't developed those strategies yet, but these are just kind of our prompts. We want to be a healthy city. Okay, how do we get there? So you may want some qualifiers, or you may even want to add a category. Like if you feel like, we talk about influence within the Hampton Roads region, which is the regional response. We talk about economic opportunity, those kind of things. Like if there's something that you feel like is missing to achieve that thriving vision, that's something else that you could add for us. Yes.
I just have a question about you getting public input,
Mm-hmm.
because you have these great opportunities to get input along the way. But the question remains, who are you hearing from?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you seeking
Yes.
that input?
Uh-huh.
My personal opinion is that if you had an advisory committee that had been established to make sure that important, and by important I mean covering some of these goals and having different things,
Mm-hmm.
important segments of the population were properly represented. So you had not only representatives of all age groups,
Mm-hmm.
but you had representatives of different civic organizations, or you had representatives of different churches. I don't know how you would do it, but if you had an
Mhm.
appointed committee where people carefully assessed and made sure that those people represented the diversity of the city that you need in order to create the vision, I'd say great.
Yeah. No, let me.
Wait a second, let me just
Uh,
continue my thought for
mhm.
1 second. But what you're getting is people, like for example, Saturday morning, listen, young families have kids in games, so they can't come. I know that you have
Mhm.
things at different times. There was a meeting this week that Portsmouth held between 4 and 6 p.m. Those people can't go to a meeting from 4
Yeah.
to 6 p.m. So if it's kept to, if it's left to who has the time.
And let me address that, because that's not how we've done this process. It's not who has the time. We have, since the beginning of this process, we have done very strategic and tactical outreach to some of the groups that we know don't usually participate in events like this. I know Brian has been to a number of civic leagues. We've talked with church groups. We have talked with a number of different community organizations and groups. We did focused interviews in the first 2 rounds. And Delcino here has done a lot to really reach out through media. We've been on local radio shows. We have done a really very tactical approach to reaching out to the groups that we've noticed have not been showing up to the meetings. And we also have online opportunities that exactly mirror what we're doing here right now. And we have, we've also made those opportunities available in pop-up events and other, like, for instance, if a civic league or another group were to say, could somebody come out and talk to us about this, weren't able to participate, we would make all attempts to do that and make sure everyone has access to those materials. So this process to date has been very inclusive. Delcino, I don't know if you can tell me exactly how many people we have reached at this point, but we've had more than 300 people participate in person.
And we've gone to various events, from car shows to the Riverfest, all those things over the past year. We've reached over 20,000 people. And we know that this is a snapshot in time. But we're also going to have a Facebook Live session that's going to mirror everything that you all are going to have today. So we're going to have that available. We've talked to millennials. We've worked with Portsmouth Public Schools, talked to the PTA Council and various ministers. So it's been a very robust outreach effort. And we understand everybody can't make a Saturday morning session, but you all are simply the ones who can make it today, but we're not. We're relying on input from folks from all over the city. So it's not just the same people showing up every day on a regular basis. We, between pastors, car lovers, environmentalists, the faith-based community, it's been pretty robust over the past 12 months or so.
One more question, and then I'm going to move on to the next set of goals. Go ahead.
Yes, we really do need to address the homeless and the panhandling in the city of Portsmouth. The homeless really need our help. The shelter,
Mm-hmm.
all those churches and faith-based organizations, they do provide meals.
Mm-hmm.
But the homeless still need a lot of help.
Sure. And that is something we're very aware of, and that's one of the things that we would like to hear from you all on today is what are your ideas about how we can help that population? I mean, there's always the standard answers of what we can come up with, but what we're hoping to hear today are some of your ideas about how we can better address that need. Mm-hmm.
Where can we give ideas for that?
So we are going to I'm going to finish up this and we're going to talk about these goal statements, and then at 10 o'clock we're going to move into small work groups and have this discussion about what kinds of things do we need to be doing to reach these goals. And that's where we'd really like you to record those. If you can't stay for that work session, we have the same activity set up out here in the open house. On the posters, you can write your ideas there about what you think we need to be doing. Okay? All right, so, yeah.
And I'm not even sure if this is a question. The goals that I have seen, to be honest with you, I can't come up with an argument. I mean, every single one of them, on some level, are 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we need all of it.
And that's very fair.
I mean, is that the goal?
Yeah,
that
so-
she has all 5?
Yeah, so if you have all 5, then I would say we've done a good job of saying this is what we need to be doing. If you see these and you say these are all 5s, but we need something else in here too, that's also an opportunity. Because we're not looking for you necessarily to poke holes in this and say, oh, these are terrible ideas. We would just want to make sure that everyone's feeling comfortable and can support these as goals, and that allows us then to move forward with strategies that would help us achieve this. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so we talk about resilient. And so the goals for being resilient, if we prepare for long-term prosperity by thoughtfully creating adaptable structures, systems, and practices to prepare for opportunities and to meet challenges. So I think that last part's actually really important. How are we going to prepare to meet these opportunities and challenges that we'll face in the future? So I think the first one we talk about, how do we work towards mitigating the impacts of climate change? We can diversify our tax base, employment opportunities, housing supply, and land use mix. We can practice fiscal responsibility. We can strengthen connectivity to improve mobility and increase green spaces in the city. So those things, we're asserting that those would make us more resilient. Mm-hmm.
You skipped the part about evolving over here. What does it mean to promote a Renaissance neighborhood? Because I see that you can do that from without or from within.
Yeah, we're going to get to evolving next, or we'll do equitable and then evolving. Sorry, they're in a different order on the worksheet than they are up here. So the resilient goals.
You know, we have a question.
Yes.
On your R4,
Mm-hmm.
Portsmouth really needs a monorail system that hooks up to Norfolk
Mm-hmm.
at the harbor. Park.
Okay, and that's great. Let's hold those comments. Those are the things that we want to put into, so write that idea down. To support R4, you would like to see a monorail
Yes.
system, and you can say specifically where that needs to connect.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm just curious about, you know, we did a comprehensive plan, 2025 with the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Some, I was involved with sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, in your process, did you look at that plan and see what did we achieve
Yes.
from that up to this point?
Yes, and we have on the website, we have the full audit of the current comprehensive plan, where we've identified what has been accomplished, what is still an ongoing effort, and what is no longer relevant because policies have changed and we can't do that anymore. And then we have some that no action has been taken on, but very few that just have not moved forward. But we have quite a few accomplishments from that previous plan, and it's very common to update these comprehensive plans every 5 to 10 years. And so we did do a full audit of that, and then as we move forward, I would expect to see some of those same strategies come up again in this new plan. But we wanted to get your ideas first about where you think we need to be headed. Okay. I'll move ahead here to evolving. And so the evolving goals under this topic. So we embrace the future and respond positively to emerging opportunities to care for the people and places we love by balancing historic preservation with thoughtful reinvestment and redevelopment. And so this is often one of the bigger challenges for a mature community, is how do we change for the future without compromising the history and the places that we value today. And so we know we want economic development, we know we want to be thriving, so how do we evolve and change without losing that identity that is important to us? So the first goal, promote a renaissance of our neighborhoods. Not all the neighborhoods probably feel like they need a renaissance, but some of them might. But let's think about Portsmouth as a community and as neighborhoods, and how do we really elevate that? Emerge as a regional and national destination. Be a place that people want to come to. And you may already feel like you are, but how do we make that even more prevalent? Be a technically advanced city and modernize our infrastructure. So we're going to move into the future that way. Provide stewardship of our environment and our ecology. So those things we think will help the city evolve in a responsible way. And then is everyone comfortable if I move ahead to the next one? So the final one is the equitable. We cultivate a vibrant city where equality is evident as we meet the needs of all of our citizens in ways that are fair, meaningful, and empowering. So we want to empower citizens and community groups. We want to enhance city services, especially to the underserved. We want to seek social and environmental justice in policies and practices. We want to reduce poverty and homelessness. And we want to provide affordable and quality housing for the people of Portsmouth. Yes.
Just like to point out, we have an acronym here. Tree. We have a goal tree.
Uh-huh. Yes.
One way to achieve some of these goals may be to relax some of the ordinances that are in place.
Yes.
Because they do make it very restrictive for someone
Mm-hmm.
For example, tiny homes, they can only be built on the already non-conforming lots.
Okay. That's an excellent one for very specific recommendation of what we could do. So if the idea is, have ordinances that support small homes or tiny homes.
It's better maybe to not have so many ordinances,
Mhm.
by that allow
Sure.
more, creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Interestingly, I guardedly disagree to some extent,
Mm-hmm.
but I agree. And I guess what I'm saying is, there should be it seems to me there should be a range. That there should be areas that are ordinance for crack. Maybe historic parts of Maine, they want to deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
but who knows?
Yeah, and that's great for discussion. I think this is great. Yeah. Yes.
As the councilwoman, I was going to let the community be involved, but I would like to say that one of the four big themes that came out of our retreat, one of them was to blow up our form-based code. So we're working with the planning department to change some of those things that would allow more flexibility for people to do things in their community, such as the Old Town, so strict with the historic, ordinances that are there. So we're working with the planning department now to kind of revise the form-based code, which would allow more flexibility for things like that.
Yeah, and that's something, I think that's a very good point. We're not planning in a static environment. There are a lot of things going on in the city. Some communities fall into the practice of we can't get out of this planning process. I think what we want to do here in Portsmouth is we want to set the stage and allow you then to move forward with the implementation, to really focus on, action as opposed to, we have this great vision, but we're not doing anything about it. So that's really what we would like to do, is to build on that momentum of what is the city already doing, and then what are some of the other things that we could be doing to really help make this vision a reality. All right, so is everyone feeling pretty comfortable with their goal ratings right now? Okay, so the next part of this, I'm going to release you. As you came in, I think most of you got a folder with a yellow dot on it. What we are going to do is break up into smaller groups and start this discussion about what should we be doing. And so we're going to put you in groups probably of 6 people at this point. And I really want you to think about what we talked about here, these goals. These are kind of the prompts. What, as we talked about possibly a monorail, we talked about improving senior housing, we talked about more community outreach or a committee that might help this. So what do you all think are the things, the projects, the programs, the strategies that we need to be working on in order to achieve these goals? And you can jot down ideas here, or you can take a break, grab some refreshment, and then you can join us upstairs. We'll probably do a little shuffling just because of how many of us we have, just to make the rooms not feel overcrowded. But we have 3 rooms upstairs. There's a set of stairs here in the front corner, right next to the doors you came in. And then there's a set of elevators if you walk through the open house section to the left. There are a set of doors there. If you go upstairs, Sarah and Delcino here in the back of the room will be there to help put you into groups. And at 10 o'clock, we'll reconvene. And thank you all again for coming out. And we look forward to some great discussions over the next hour. So thank you all.
Thank you for joining us. as Emily said, this is the chance now to start to get at your ideas for how we're gonna achieve some of these goals that Emily reviewed downstairs. I wanted to just do a little bit of housekeeping first. So you're sitting in these groups, and that's great. There's a sign-in sheet on each table. If you could just, somebody write the table number at the top, and then everyone just sign their name on the sign-in sheet, so we know who is here. And then I need a volunteer, one per group, to act as the table recorder for us. And there's a couple 11x17 sheets. It's not a hard job, just writing down what the group shares. All I ask is that you try to write as neatly as possible, because I'm going to have to read all your handwriting and put it into the database so that we can make sure that all the ideas are considered. So, if everybody could sign in and identify who's going to be the table recorder. There should be two 11x17 sheets and a pen and some index cards and a little colored card for the table recorder. Yes. So I'll let you get settled for a second.
No, I'm rewriting my previous thing because my handwriting is terrible.
You got some seats here.
Sorry, sure.
Is everybody okay with Siani recording? You okay with Siani recording for us?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so my name is Sarah Bongiorno, and I'm from a community planning firm called Planning Next out of Columbus, Ohio. I'm working alongside Emily and her team out of Cincinnati to help with this comprehensive plan for Portsmouth. My job and my firm has been specifically helping with the community engagement, and so I'm here to help facilitate this workshop today. So I'm going to kind of keep us on track and go through the activities so that you all can participate and fully share your ideas. So in your folders, I just want to go through a couple of papers. You have a white worksheet in there that Emily mentioned before. I want you to get that out. We're going to use that first. Before we jump into group discussion, we're going to just get our thoughts organized individually. So get that white sheet out, and there should be a little golf pencil in your folder, and if you get some extra pens too, if you need something to write with, let us know. But we're going to start out, we're here an hour together, so we're here from 10 to 11. We're going to start out for about 5-10 minutes with a silent brainstorm, just individually thinking about, and the goals are there for your reference. So if everything that Emily went over, if you want to go back and review any of those goals, they're on the sheet. But really, this is your chance just to jot down some ideas that you think Portsmouth needs to consider, opportunities for the future. So I'm going to give you about 5-10 minutes. We'll do this, and then we'll jump into group discussion. Okay, we've got one more minute to get any last thoughts out, and then we'll move on to the group discussion. No, I'm just jumping in. Versus share. Forward. No. Silent, and then they're just sitting up here to jot down
I was just thinking that. Look at the way I wrote my name, see if you can read it.
Okay, if I can get everyone's attention, I just wanted to make sure we have a table recorder identified for each group. So if you have volunteered to just write down the ideas for the group, could you raise your hand? I want to make sure every group's got a table recorder.
I just don't want anyone to get any ideas of what I want to write.
Okay, so at this point, we're gonna just individually in your small group, We're going to just, move around the table. You can do it round robin style, we call it, where one person starts out and they share one of their ideas and then goes to the next person, and every person can share an idea and the recorder just writes it down. The recorder can also share their ideas and write them down, so you can participate, of course. And you can just keep going around the group until everyone's exhausted their ideas, or if you would like to do a more free flow and everyone just throws out their ideas. And we just got to make sure that anything said in the discussion gets written down on either your individual group sheet or the individual worksheet or the group worksheet, because that's how we'll take it back and database it and get it back to the city. So make sure that as these great conversations are happening, the table recorder is able to record that. Now, one thing, instructions for the table recorder, to make sure that we are clear and understand all the ideas that were shared, please number each idea. So we numbered like the first 3, but as you continue down, make sure you're numbering each idea so we know when one idea stops and another one starts. And so we're going to just let you guys go for a while. You have a red card on a pink card on in your packet there. If as you're going around, if as a group you have a question or unsure about something, you can raise that up, and one of Delcino or I will come around and help you. So we kind of be floating around, but we just really want you to have time now to talk with your neighbors. We think the small group discussion is really helpful because you may have an idea and someone else is like, oh, I thought about that similar, but a little bit different. So you can talk it out and kind of write all the ideas down. So it's kind of nice.
Are we consolidating the ideas?
We're writing everything down. Yeah, there's no need to come to any kind of consensus. It's just this first activity is just an idea dump, a brainstorm. So get as many ideas on the paper in about 20 minutes as you can. All right, go.
Go around, talk about common themes or
I'm a late arrival, so
the main paper.
Hello, Portsmouth. I'm Emily Crow. I work with McBride Dale Clarion, and I'm helping the city of Portsmouth to develop their current comprehensive plan update. We're calling this effort Build One Portsmouth. And we're about halfway through a process. We are conducting round 3 of the public input today. And I wanted to share with you some of the information that we shared with the group that came in today, as well as encourage you to participate with us on our website in this effort at buildoneportsmouth.org. These areas are locations in the city that were identified both through your input as the public in the last 2 rounds, as well as some efforts we've done to do some technical analysis of the land use and transportation systems in the city. At this point, we have 3 categories of focus areas where we think that there's a need for some specific strategies to help us move forward. And so we're looking at the blue areas being the places where we think there's a big opportunity for some employment redevelopment and our economic development pushes. And then we have some districts in the brown that are our mixed district redevelopment areas that we think have opportunities for some of those activity centers where people might want to live and work and have access to restaurants and entertainment venues. And then we have the neighborhoods that have been identified that need some attention in terms of maybe some neighborhood beautification, infill projects, and other things to help maintain these communities as great places to live. Another really important feature of a comprehensive plan is that we have to think about the geographic features of our cities. And so to support the vision and the goals that I'm going to talk about, we also wanted to look at the different characteristics of the city. And so we have character areas that look at our different neighborhoods and business districts and start to set up a framework for us to think about policies and recommendations about how we can protect and preserve these areas and enhance economic development activities. We also wanted to look at the areas in the city that are influenced by the flooding that is occurring, so that we can think about policies and practices that might help prevent damage to property or help us consider what we should be doing in the future as we invest in the civic infrastructure. We also wanted to look at those critical gateways into the community that are kind of those identifying features that people who live here might think, this is something that really says Portsmouth, or maybe it's something that you want to think of as your front door to the rest of the region. And then the systems that connect all of this together, your roads, your sidewalks, your trails for biking and walking, and all of those features connect us to the rest of the region. And so how does that all work? And so these are all really important considerations as we think about strategies for the future of Portsmouth. And we've put them out here for everyone to give us their feedback on so that we can understand, are we headed in the right direction? So the vision is where we see ourselves in the future. And the goals are the specific things that we would like to achieve in that future. And then what we are asking from you is to help us brainstorm what it is we need to be doing to reach these goals. And you can do this online, and we will be sharing the results at the end of the month. So the 4 major themes for the goals are thriving, resilient, evolving, and equitable. We had about 30 to 40 people come out, and we did some intensive discussion about what people think are the strategies, programs, practices that the city needs to pursue to actually achieve our goals. And we had an open house session where people were just asked to share their ideas. And we had some really good comments about finding ways to help the underserved populations. We want to focus on education and look for accountability citywide. I think we heard a lot from people today about wanting to make sure that the ideas that are shared here in this process are something that actually has action behind them. From our workshop, where we had about 30 individuals that talked in groups, and they worked together to try to prioritize some of these ideas and dig into them a little bit deeper. What we heard is that they would like to have better communication between developers and the city about what the community's needs are. And in particular, they wanted us to focus on the needs of seniors in the community, as well as the up-and-coming generation of millennials, finding ways to really get what we need here in the city built. We also heard quite a bit about healthy initiatives and understanding better how to have active living. And that included everything from biking and exercise routes, but access to healthy foods was also a really important thing. And then people talked also about wanting to coordinate more with the healthcare providers to make sure people know what resources are available to them. We heard quite a bit about education and workforce development. And so one of the opportunities was improving early education and doing intervention at a very young age so that we're preparing a quality workforce for the future. I think a lot of discussion was also held on providing more educational opportunities in the public schools and in high schools in particular, and perhaps looking at magnet programs where people could specialize in something that's really interesting to them that could lead to a career. One of the ideas that I think was really great, and we've heard from a couple people that they would really like to see this happen, is having some kind of a summit or an annual meeting of all the neighborhoods and civic leagues in the city, where the city and the people can have a dialogue about how the city is doing, what are the ideas that really need attention that year, and really focusing on the neighborhoods in this community to help move them forward. And then again, we want to see some workforce development and an expansion of services to those underserved populations. And in particular, we talked about wanting to see more support for the unemployed, perhaps people who are difficult to employ, and really reaching out to that population to help them find jobs. joining us for this quick video, and we would really like to encourage you all to participate in this process if you have not already. You can join us at buildoneportsmouth.org and provide your input. This activity will be posted through the end of November for your engagement, and we look forward to hearing from you. So again, join us at buildoneportsmouth.org.